Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a really powerful idea, one that kind of flips our whole understanding of what politics is. It's called everyday politics, and honestly, it might just change the way you see your entire life.
So, when I say the word politics, what pops into your head? I'm guessing it's things like parliament buildings, voting booths, maybe those heated debates you see on the news. But what if I told you the most important political stuff isn't happening there at all? What if it's happening in your office, or at your dinner table, or even in your group chat? Look, we're all familiar with what we call formal politics, right? Elections, laws, governments, all that official stuff. But the real, constant back and forth of power, that often happens in the places we don't even think about, the mundane spaces of our daily lives. That is everyday politics, and that's what we're going to break down today.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this, we need a solid definition. What are we actually talking about when we say everyday politics? Let's get into it. So, at its very core, everyday politics isn't about political parties or passing laws. It's all about power. It's the subtle, often invisible ways that power is negotiated, challenged, and kept in place in the totally ordinary things we do every single day, often without a second thought.
Now, this idea has a few key features. First, it zooms in on the micro level, the small one-on-one interactions we have. It also puts a big emphasis on agency, this idea that we aren't just puppets, we can actually push back. It's also about recognizing informal power, like social pressure or those unwritten rules everyone just seems to know. And this is crucial, it shows how all these tiny, everyday acts are actually connected to the big, society-wide political structures.
Okay, so if this whole other political world exists all around us, how do we start to see it? Let's look at a couple of big ideas that act like a decoder ring, helping us spot these hidden rules of power in action. So, the philosopher Michel Foucault had this revolutionary idea. He argued that power isn't something that a person has, like a king holding a scepter. Nope, he said it's more like a current that flows through all of society, shaping how we talk, what we think is normal, and how we act. It's in the doctor's office, the classroom, the workplace, it's literally everywhere. And that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If power is this force flowing all around us, how do people without any official authority even begin to push back? Well, the answer isn't always some big, loud protest march. A lot of the time, it's way, way more subtle. A political scientist named James Scott gave these subtle actions a fantastic name, the weapons of the weak. He was talking about all the quiet, sometimes invisible ways that ordinary people resist. It's not an open rebellion. It's that quiet protest of, dragging your feet at work. It's the gossip that quietly chips away at a manager's authority. These are the small, everyday acts of defiance that basically say, no, I do not consent. So, where does all this actually play out? Let's take this theory and drop it right into the real world, your world. Because I promise you, once you start seeing these dynamics, you can't unsee them. Let's kick things off in a place most of us spend a huge chunk of our lives, the workplace. I mean, with its obvious hierarchies and all those unwritten rules, it is a perfect arena for everyday politics. Just think about it for a second. An employee who deliberately works slower to protest crazy hours, that's a weapon of the weak in action. That rumor mill in the break room that can make or break a manager's reputation, that's another form of subtle resistance. Even just speaking up in a meeting to challenge your boss's idea, that's a political act. It's a direct negotiation of power and authority right then and there. All right, now let's bring this lens into an even more personal space, one you probably think is totally separate from politics, your home. Seriously, every single conversation about who's doing the dishes, who's taking out the trash, or how the family budget gets spent, that's a political negotiation. It's about labor, it's about resources, and it's about power. And challenging those old school assumptions about who's supposed to do what in a family, that is a profound act of everyday politics. And of course, these dynamics don't just stop at our front door. They spill out into our communities, and maybe more than ever, into our online spaces, where these everyday political battles are playing out on a massive global scale. Think about it. Street art can be a direct challenge to who gets to control public space. A simple hashtag can ignite a global movement, organizing millions of people completely outside of any traditional political system. Every single time you post or comment or share something, you're taking part in this huge, ongoing battle over ideas and stories. That right there is everyday politics in the 21st century. Okay,
So we're seeing this stuff everywhere, at work, at home, online. But so what? Why is it so important to think about the world this way? What's the real point of seeing politics in your everyday life?
Here it is. This is the crucial takeaway. When you start to recognize that these small daily interactions are actually political, you stop being just the passive bystander. You become an active participant. Understanding these hidden dynamics is the very first step toward having more agency and making real change in your own world.
So ultimately, this whole perspective shows that power isn't just locked away in government buildings. It's woven into the very fabric of our lives. It shines a light on the clever ways marginalized groups resist, and it reminds us that massive social change often starts with the smallest of actions. And on a personal level, it gives you a roadmap to better understand and navigate your own social world.
So, I'll leave you with this question. As you go about the rest of your day, try to look at things through this new lens. That conversation with your boss, that little negotiation with your partner, that comment you're about to post online, just for a second, think about the power at play. And then ask yourself, what political act will you engage in today